You know the old saying, prosecutor can indict a ham sandwich if they want to. I'm just asking, if there is such a prosecutor and they indict you, would that deter you from running for president again?
I don't think the people of the United States would stand for it. And as you know, if a thing like that happened, I would have no prohibition against running. You know that. You've already.
I do. And that's what I want people to understand. That would not take you out of the arena.
It would not. But I think if it happened, I think you'd have problems in this country, the likes of which perhaps we've never seen before. I don't think the people of the United States would stand for it.
What kind of problems, Mr. President?
I think they'd have big problems. Big problems. I just don't think they'd stand for it. They will not sit still and stand for this ultimate of hoaxes.
There's Donald Trump talking about whether or not he's going to be indicted and whether or not the American people will stand for it. He says you'd have problems in this country, the likes of which perhaps you've never seen before. He's on with Hugh Hewitt, and Hugh Hewitt is a talk show host, so he asks questions, and he definitely heard what he said, which is why he said, which kind of problems? We know where this is going. But first, remember when someone else said this same type of thing about what may happen if Donald Trump is indicted? It's weird because usually the puppy follows the owner, but in this case, Donald Trump followed the puppy. Remember this guy?
Say this. If there's a prosecution of Donald Trump for mishandling classified information after the Clinton debacle, which you presided over and did a hell of a good job, there'll be riots in the streets.
There'll be riots in the streets. You'll have problems in this country, the likes of which you've never seen. So let's get back to this interview with Hugh Hewitt, because Hugh Hewitt heard him say that. And like I said, he knows how to ask some questions. So he asked the next question everyone was thinking. What does that mean?
You know that the legacy media will say you're attempting to incite violence with that statement. How do you respond to what will inevitably...
That's not inciting. I'm just saying what my opinion is. I don't think the people of this country would stand for it.
Hugh Hewitt said the legacy media will accuse you of inciting your followers to violence. Not your followers who like to be incited to violence, which we've proven they've been able to do based off of what you told them to do, and you're being investigated and exposed for right now. But it's the legacy media. Hugh Hewitt's not a dumb guy. He knows what he's doing, and he knows the way he posed that question is to make sure that he protects himself from Donald Trump's wrath. Because back in the day when Donald Trump was running for president originally, and the entire Republican Party, damn near everyone, and conservatives in general, pundits, people on TV and radio, they were having nothing to do with Donald Trump. In fact, they were looking to expose how stupid he was and how incompetent he could be as a president. So let's go to back then in 2015, I believe it was, when Hugh Hewitt was talking to Donald Trump, and he was in that role of making sure we find out who Donald Trump is and how much Donald Trump really knows. Juxtapose what he did back then, what you're about to hear, to what he did right now as far as allowing Donald Trump to walk on that incitement of violence. Watch.
Are you familiar with General Soleimani?
Yes. Go ahead. Give me a little. Go ahead. Tell me.
He runs the Quds forces.
Yes. Okay. Right.
Do you expect his behavior?
The Kurds, by the way, have been horribly mistreated by us.
No, not the Kurds. The Quds forces, the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Quds forces, the bad guys.
Right.
Do you expect his behavior to change as a result?
Kurds.
No.
Kurds. I'm sorry. I thought you said Kurds, because I think the Kurds have been very poorly treated by us here.
Well, Soleimani is to terrorism sort of what Trump is to real estate. He's many people would say he's the most dangerous man in the world, and he runs the Quds forces, which is their Navy SEAL. Do you think they're going to stop?
The gentleman that was going back and forth with Russia and meeting with Putin, I read something, and that seems to be also where he's at. He's going back and forth, meeting with other countries, et cetera, et cetera.
That's the guy.
Okay, so Donnie, you're running for president. 2 + 2 is 4, not 5. I'm going to walk you through this. That's the guy. He knew what he was doing. He was exposing him. And as a matter of fact, Donald Trump knew what he was doing, and he didn't like it very much, and he did this in response. Watch this.
On the front of Islamist terrorism, I'm looking for the next commander-in-chief to know who Hassan Nasrallah is, and Zawahiri, and al-Julani, and al-Baghdadi. Do you know the players without a scorecard yet, Donald Trump?
No, I'll tell you honestly, I think by the time we get to office, they'll all be changed. They'll be all gone. I knew you were going to ask me things like this, but they're all changing you. Those are like history questions. Do you know this one? Do you know that one?
I don't believe in gotcha questions. I'm not trying to, quiz you on who the worst guy in the world
question,
is.
Though. I mean, when you're asking me about who's running this, that is not. I will be so good at the military, your head will spin.
All right, let me expand it because I know it's not gotcha. I'm trying not to do that, but I wanted to see if
gotcha. You're asking me names that I think it's somewhat ridiculous, but that's okay. Go ahead.
In 2015, Hewitt was willing to ask Donald Trump questions about him and actually point out what he did and didn't know. Not sure if that was his whole point, but he definitely asked him the questions without any kind of any veils, without anything saying, hey, the legacy media wants to know why you don't know anything about foreign policy, nothing about foreign leaders, nothing about the war on terror. You know nothing. He didn't say that, but he asked him the questions and exposed him. And Donald Trump didn't like it. Last little piece here, because Donald Trump was offended, and once he's offended, he goes on a full-on attack, which Hugh Hewitt remembers. Remember this? He went on MSNBC right after that.
Not about the Quds Force, but about the Iran deal. You're the only candidate in the field that I know of who has actually been forthright in saying that you would basically work with the Iran deal.
And, by the way, when you say Quds versus Kurds, I thought he said Kurds as third-rate radio announcer that I did a show. It was like, got you. Every question was, do I know this one and that one? And, it was like he worked hard on that. But I thought he said Kurds.
What we've seen from 2015 to 2022, Jackson, is a methodical teaching, a lesson in how to be a MAGA lapdog, in order how not to step out of line and to stay loyal by not exposing Donald Trump for the idiot that he is. And now Hugh Hewitt learned his lesson. There's a lot here. He's trying to incite his folks to violence, and when he goes on Hugh Hewitt's third-rate radio show, which I thought it was back in 2015, Hugh Hewitt is like, it's the legacy media. It's not you. It's the legacy media.
Well, I mean, of course, what Trump is doing, as we all know, is inciting his base to violence, because when he says that, you're going to see problems the likes of which you've never seen, what's he going to do about anything? Because he's gone against the state many times and lost. He's, whether that be for crimes committed against the state or corporate crimes, tax crimes, whatever that is. Much of what he's done throughout his life is coming home to roost. So, yes, he's inciting his base to violence. And really, what people should be more worried about, well, not necessarily should be, but the things like the Supreme Court, they're the ones who are really taking things out of line and out of control, really reversing policy. Moore v. Harper, that's coming up soon, where they're looking at basically independent state legislature theory, to where basically there would be no oversight over Republican state assemblies, to where they could impact the outcomes of electoral college results. They could impact who's overseeing things, stuff like that. We've seen what the Supreme Court has done, even though independent state legislature theory has been struck down by the Supreme Court many times in the last century. Well, look who's on the bench now. And much of that is due to Donald Trump. So if he ends up getting back in office, then obviously he'll do much more of that. But as we've talked about here, I don't know about all that. So yes, that being the case, he's inciting his people to violence, because that's all he has left.
That's all he's got left. And again, going on whatever outlets and people he can. We talked yesterday about how he was trying to incite the folks outside of the January 6th people in prisons rally. It's all just finding the most base amount of people to follow and then gin them up for violence. That's the only thing that's left, because he's losing on all these other realms. We'll see how this continues on, but I just want to point out the build up for what we may see when people go, I couldn't have seen it coming. We see it coming right now.